Hello everybody, welcome back. I'm the Strategy Professor, and today we're doing our first campaign for Total War Warhammer 2, and it's going to be a legendary Skaven campaign. So I'm really hyped about this. I've been very excited about Skaven for a long time. It's one of my favorite factions in the Warhammer universe, and I'm just been a huge fan of the Total War Warhammer franchise, you know, obviously since they started it last year. It's been great. If you're new to the channel, I run my campaigns a little bit differently. Everything's on Legendary, of course. Then I also don't abuse the auto-resolve system. I don't assassinate lords on the campaign map unless there's a specific quest to do so. I try my best not to multi-sack towns or to sit there and raid my own territory too much to power level characters. So I try to get away from a lot of the other gimmicky tactics that I consider to be exploitative in the campaign just to make it a little more interesting and fun. I also play with a very aggressive playstyle, so I try to just go out, attack stuff, take on some big challenges just to make it more fun and make it more challenging as well. So you're not going to see me sit there and just hole up in a defensive position, you know, for 30 turns unless it's like a very, very dire situation. Like, I'm going to do my best to make it aggressive and fun to watch and to play. Okay, so I have played through about 20 turns so far, and I will say this is one of the most complex factions. I think it's pretty easily the most complex faction in the Total War Warhammer universe so far. So we'll talk about it when we get in there. Got a good treat for you. Let's go ahead and go. So we're going to go new campaign. So you have two options when you talk about Skaven so far. So we've got Queek, Head Taker, and Skrull. Before we get too deep also, I just want to say, as soon as the Steel Faith Overhaul mod comes out for this, I'm going to be probably doing a lot of campaigns in that. I really liked how they did that. I did a Vampire Counts campaign with Isabella, and it just makes it a lot more strategically complex, at least in Warhammer 1, and adds a lot of additional challenges and sort of intrigue to the fights. So I really like that mod a lot. So if they continue doing the great work they've done, then I will I'll continue to use them and support them. Okay, so you have two options here. We have Queek, Head Taker, and Lord Skrull. I had originally thought I was going to go Skrull because I didn't have early access to anything, so I haven't been able to play this for a long time. Like I said, I just put, you know, maybe 20 turns on it today. And the initial challenge was, I thought, very hard for Lord Skrull, and it looks like they've changed it to normal, and now Queek is the harder one. So I want to do whatever's the hardest. So we'll probably start off with Queek, and I think Queek is actually the best one overall for several reasons. And we'll talk about it when we get in there, but basically he gets upkeep reduction for Storm Vermin and Clan Rats. This is like the bread and butter of many Chaos armies. He gets extra menace from below, which we'll talk about when we get in there, which is nice. He's a very good combat fighter, and typically the best combat fighters are often the best lords, unless it's also a caster that's also a decent combat fighter. And I'll show you that when we get in there. So Lord Skrull on the other side, on the other hand, if you want to run him, he focuses on the plague stuff, so he gets Plague Monk Censer Bearers, Plague Claw Catapults, and Plague Priests, 50%. I will say, I believe this is bugged. And the reason why I think it's bugged, well, I'll double check it when I get in there, but the upkeep on these units was 150, because I just like opened on a Lord Skrull just to see what his skills were and stuff like that. And it was still charging 150 gold, and I believe that they normally cost like 190, so it was not 50% off. It was like 40 gold off or something. So I think that's a bug or something. I don't know, but they do not get 50% off for the Plague Monks or the Plague Monk Censer Bearers. The Censer Bearers were 220, and I know there's no way they cost 440 normally. So something in that is goofed up. The Skaven Corruption is actually, I would argue, bad on Legendary. So that's not only is it not a good trait, it's a bad trait. And this is so cheap anyways, Pestilent Scheme, and you can't even use it that much, and this is like one-time event type of things for the most part, so this is very, very weak. This might be the weakest faction effects and ward effects out there. I haven't done a lot with the other heroes, or with the other campaigns yet, and by a lot I mean any. I just did the Skaven today, so there might be something out there weaker, but it's hard to draw up something that's much weaker than Lord Skrull to start with. So let's go ahead and get in here. We'll watch the intro, and then I will start breaking down some of the strategy, and then we'll get into some good fights in the first episode.
Deep under the world,
so we'll just chill and watch this for a few minutes, in case you haven't seen it out there before.
Waiting. is a nightmare vision. The Skaven, a ravenous horde of verminous ratmen. They gnaw at the roots of the world like an infected wound. They mean to rule over ruins, for such is the will of their god, the great horned rat. Only the island home of the High Elves has remained unscathed. And at its center is the Great Vortex. A swirling maelstrom that siphons chaos from the world. The Skaven covet its vast power with envious, beady red eyes. The twin-tailed comet is oft seen as an omen, but this time its wake has disturbed the winds of magic. In the secret halls of the Under-Empire, the Council of 13 has gathered. A time to scheme of opportunity.
I kill dwarf things in Pillar City. No! Clan wars go to Southlands. Hunt for Warpstone. Moors are puppet minion. Pestilence infest Lastria. Yes. But all Warpstone for council plan.
There's 3 of them there. I just noticed that.
Scribe slave, work to do. Comet makes elf things weak. Council wants power of the vortex. Just as prophecy demands. So it's true. You read markings on the Black Pillar. Then you know we must find the Screaming One. Find out how to control the vortex. Oh yes, master. But a large tribute of Warpstone will that demon require if we summon him. Return to your assigned clan. Harvest Warpstone. Yes, most precipitous of masters. And flee yourself, your impertinence. Oh, it will be done, your worship.
Okay, so there was a third person there. I'm wondering if that's going to be Thankwall, and the Pillar City is the Old World map, I believe, Skaven Blight. That was like one of the only little regions you couldn't ever occupy. Okay, I'm going to skip that. Hopefully the advisor is off on this. I couldn't figure out how to turn him off. He was like going out of control last time. He was telling me so many things. I was like, dude, trust me. I've played a little bit of Warhammer. Total War Warhammer. In my day, just a pinch. Probably like 500 hours at least, if not 1,000. Okay, probably not 1,000, but several hundred. Okay, so let's go ahead and get in here and talk about this stuff real quick. All right, so there's a lot of new mechanics, and one thing that I like about Skaven that they're bringing back in is choices. So things that could be both good or bad. So not things that are always unequivocally good or bad. So I think that makes for a very complex strategy, that some things are negative, that you don't want some things. So you have to try to balance out good things plus negative. Mostly in Total War Warhammer 1, you just kind of wanted to go all out with most factions and just like get as much gold as possible, get as much territory as possible, you know, get as much public order as possible. Everything was just plus. It was very linear decisions. Well, it's very different with the Skaven, because there's some stuff that you have to balance out. And this is kind of hearkening back to Attila. Attila's when I came to the Total War franchise, so I was kind of a latecomer. I don't know how I didn't, you know, play it for over a decade. It's awesome. I love the franchise. But one thing that I really liked about Attila is you had to balance out, like, your food capacity with your sanitation and cleanliness, with your population growth, with your money. There were all these factors that kind of, like, worked in together, and you had to you know, what people often call min-max to get to the right perfect sweet spot for what you wanted to do with the city in terms of how it fits in your overall plan. Skaven is similar to that. So they have a food mechanic here. So what this is every time you win a fight, take a city, raid, or do a few other actions, there are some very few buildings out there that can do it. One of your rights that you can use can give you food. So there are some things that can give you food. But basically, it's just killing stuff, taking towns, and raiding is your bread and butter of how you get food. And it tells you here how you get it. So you can get it from buildings, rituals, captives, dominating scheme, raiding, or commandments. And then you consume it by using extra stacks of menace from below, which we'll talk about here in a second. Colonization, settlement upkeep, so colonization is taking over a town. Settlement upkeep, each settlement requires 1 food upkeep always, no matter what, and each army requires 1 food upkeep no matter what. Now this is a little confusing, and it took me like 10 turns to figure this out or so when I was doing my first one. But there is a certain amount of total food. Hey, thanks for the sub. I appreciate it. There's a certain amount of total food that you can acquire. So right now I have 53 out of 105. Every time you get a new town, you get an additional 5 food capacity, not 5 food generated, 5 food capacity. So that's actually, in some ways, bad. It depends. It's good and bad, right? So that means that, for instance, right now I have roughly 100 food, right? Just for easy math, roughly 100 food. If I were to take over 10 more towns, I would have 150. So my total percentage, if I took over 10 more towns, would be around 33%, 1/3, instead of 50%. So even though I have the same amount of food, roughly 50, because I have more towns, it's less of a percent of my total possible food. And so that's bad. That's worse for me. Because these bonuses are based on your percentage, not your total food, your percentage of possible food. Okay, so if you have somewhere between 41 and 60% of your total capacity filled with food, then you get +3 growth. So that's where I'm at right now. But if I had 150 total food, I took over 10 more towns, then all of a sudden I would be in this range, 21 to 40%, and I would have -5 growth everywhere, -5 leadership, and -1. Okay, so this is based on percentage. There are some things that are based on flat numbers, though. So when you take over a town, which we'll see in this campaign, hopefully, when you take over a town, or not, we will see it in the campaign, but I mean in this turn, you take over a town, you can pay extra food, a flat number of extra food to upgrade the tier on the town. So you can start a town off as high as tier 3. So you can go tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3 if you pay extra food. That's a flat number. So when you have a much larger store of food, like 150, if I had that, if I was completely full with 150 food, then I could more easily spend that 20 or whatever to upgrade it 1 tier, and it would hurt me a lot less than if I only had, 100 total food and I spent 20 there. So it gets really, really wonky and complicated with the food system. But in general, you want to try to keep your capacity at least in the yellow or the green for the long term. You can temporarily dip into orange, which I probably will to upgrade this town so that I can get my techs going fast. But you want to avoid red at all costs. This is really pretty dire most of the time. You lose a ton of money across your whole area. -10 leadership is a huge debuff, especially on legendary. You're going to get another -8 leadership just because you're playing on legendary, and you're going to get negative growth. So stay out of the red. Orange is okay to temporarily dip into if you have a good tactical reason to do it. Then obviously if you can get up into the green, that's really good too. But I would say, instead of getting all the way green, it's probably better just to use that food in some way to upgrade towns or, just do something with it rather than just sit on it. But it's nice if you have, just an insane abundance of food, which is probably not going to happen on legendary. Okay, so that's the food system. The other system up here that is gold's the same. You get gold by taxes in towns, winning fights, standard stuff from Warhammer 1. In this, you get a currency called this Warpstone currency. Each town gives you 1 currency, no matter what. And then you can gain currency by completing quests. And certain towns, like this one over here, which we'll try to get early on, can give you up to 10 additional per turn. And we need to get to 350 to conduct this ritual. And we try to get all the way up to 5,000 to conduct the final ritual. So you're in a race with all the other factions here, as noted by their little starting thing to get to a lot of currency to complete all these rituals and then to win the game. Now, when you complete the rituals, I haven't actually gone through this process yet. I watched part of it on some of the beta footage, but it was on a much lower difficulty. I think it was on like hard or something. It's a completely different game. So we'll have to see how it goes. But yeah, you have to get so in other words, this is how you win the game. So you want as much of this as possible. So you want to complete quest, get as many towns as you can sustain, and especially get these special towns for the Warpstone. Okay, so that's how that works. In terms of other new systems, I will say that armies are much, much more expensive here. Oh, the Skaven Blight. I'll talk about that in a second. So in Warhammer 1, it was only 5% per turn for each additional army with virtually every faction. Some factions did not have any additional cost for armies. I believe Chaos didn't, and I don't think Beastmen did. The Horde armies didn't, because they make so little money anyways. I believe they didn't, not 100%. But most factions, it was 5% additional total upkeep on everything, on all armies for each additional army that you had. So if you had 3 armies, it was going to be an additional 10% upkeep, I believe. Maybe 15%. Your first one might have been 5% also. I can't remember. But either way, it was 5% per. This, at least with Skaven, and I haven't tried it with the other factions yet, it is 15% for your first additional army. And I don't know if it's 15% for each additional, or if it starts at 15 and goes up 5. I don't know, because I've only gotten one additional army before. But it's 15 on your first army, which is huge. That's very, very expensive. Now, Skaven is cheap, but at the same time, their units are mostly trash compared to other factions. So it's cheap for a reason. So that's really, really rough on the upkeep. So that makes it a lot tougher to field multiple armies. So you have to do a lot with a lot less. You still get the -8 upkeep, which is a huge deal for every faction, difficulty level -8. Other things that you lose, I think you lose 5 leadership, not 10. With all of your units in battle, and they all gain 10 leadership, and they get a bunch of other bonuses that aren't listed that are really like, it's frustrating why they don't just tell you what the bonuses are. But I remember reading forums, and I assume this is the same as Warhammer 1, like they get a lot of extra vigor in battle, so they don't get tired as easily. I believe they shoot faster and more accurately with missile troops. I think they probably have slightly higher like melee attack and melee defense. They're just better than you in combat. So if you go up, and I've had people debate this with me in past videos and say, no, they aren't tougher. Yes, they are. Trust me. Like, go in and try to go fight just your clan rats against their clan rats, and they will crush you one-on-one. So their units are much tougher than yours. I'm not sure if they get extra ritual resources. They might. I know they get a lot of extra money, because sometimes they'll just have like one town and they'll field like 220 stacks. So they definitely get a lot of extra like base income. But they don't really tell you what all this is. And I can't find reliable income for what that is on Total War Warhammer 2 yet, because the game just came out today. So I assume it's similar to Total War 1, where they have like a free +10 public order. I know that, it says it right there under difficulty. They get a ton of extra gold, and all their units are much tougher than yours are. Your armies cost a lot more, you have a lot less leadership. I think they might even hate you more diplomatically. I'm not sure. But it's very, very slanted in their favor, as it should be. That's what I signed up for. I signed up for a tough campaign. But that's one big difference, is the extra army cost that's different from Total War Warhammer 1. Okay, Skaven Blight, and then we'll get into a fight here in a second. I'll actually talk about Skaven Blight, and then we'll fight, and then we'll do techs. And units and stuff like that here in a little bit. So I'll try to space out some of this. There's just so much to cover strategically, and I just want you to get a good grasp of what's going on so that you can play your best campaign out there, so that you can play it on Legendary and dominate and have a lot of fun with it. Or just appreciate it even if it's at lower ELOs and just been playing a lot of League, lower difficulties, and just enjoy the game better. So that's something that I do that's a lot different from other campaigns too, is I actually explain all of this stuff to you on a deep strategic level. Okay, feast while you can. So basically, this is really weird too, with something that you have to balance out with Skaven corruption. So basically, all of your buildings are going to give Skaven corruption. They're going to give 1 extra Skaven corruption. Most of them. Not all of them, most of them. So this gives +1. Each one is typically +1, and if you upgrade it, it's still +1, except for the disease stuff. That gives +2. Okay? And goes up to +6. Okay? So the disease stuff will give you a lot of corruption. Now, I think corruption's bad overall on Legendary, at least. On lower difficulties where the public order doesn't matter, where you don't have -8, then you can afford this. So basically what happens is you get up to +7 public order, or +8 public order, if you don't have much corruption. So it says corruption 8. What that means is not corruption. Gives you 8. And then as your corruption, as you get more and more corrupt, then your public order drops less and less and less. So that means that more corruption, less public order. In exchange for this, you get more uses of menace from below, which we'll show in combat here in a second. So you get more menace from below, which basically means you get extra free regiments of clan rats in a fight. But when you're in your own allied territory that's really corrupt, it might be an enemy corrupted territory too, I'm not sure. But in exchange for that, your public order gets very difficult to manage. And I would rather have public order that's easier to manage on Legendary so that I don't have to devote as many building slots to dealing with that than I would having a couple of extra clan rat units in a fight. So I personally do not prefer getting a lot of corruption. Thanks, dear. Little dinner. Spent all day researching this and trying to get ready to start this campaign up. So in general, I try to keep it as least corrupt as possible. Now there are some buildings, so this one gives untainted, so that counts as anti-corruption. They don't cancel each other out. It's important to understand that. If you have 5 corruption and 5 untainted, you aren't completely free of corruption. You are 50% corrupt. So it just takes the total number of untainted and the total number of corruption and divides it by whatever each corresponding version is, and that's what you get. So for example, if you have 3 untainted and 7 corruption, it's going to be 70% corrupt at the end of the day, because 3 out of the 10 is 30% untainted, so 30% off of 100 is 70. That's what's left. That's what the corruption is. If you have 15 out of 20, then that's going to be 75% corruption. Okay? If it's 15 out of 80 corruption. Now, the public order doesn't go down linearly, though. As you get to about 50% corruption, as I saw in sort of my trial run, then you're down to only +3 public order. So you start off with 8, roughly, but then once you get down to 50%, then it doesn't go to 4, it goes to 3. So I think it falls off geometrically over time. So anyways, you want to be untainted, because it's hard to get public order. The way that you would get it to counteract this is you get Taskmaster's Platform, which is good, but it's very, very expensive for public order building. It only gives +4 for 1,500 gold. That's a lot. And 3,000 for your next 2 public order. So you're starting to pay a very steep gold price in order to buy these extra little ticks of public order, right? You're paying 4,500 for 3 more here. You're paying 4,500 for 4 more here. And it doesn't really give you a lot of other benefits. Like this, you know, it's 80 income no matter what. You do get a technology here, but it's virtually no extra. And it does give you a corruption too. So it's, yeah, it gives you public order, but it also gives you a corruption. So that's going to hurt your public order a little bit too. So it's not a great solution to the problem. Now, if you get it all the way up here, then that's actually pretty good, because you get +2 recruit rank, hero rank. You know, it's okay. But yeah, there's not a lot to help you out with public order, which is rough on Legendary. So you really have to try to be untainted as much as possible. Okay, let's go ahead and get into a fight here. I know I've been talking a lot, but I just want to get some of that preamble out of the way. Okay, so we're just going to go ahead and jump right in here. We do start off with Rat Ogres. This is another thing that Queek's army is just so much better to start with than Skrulk's army, because you get Rat Ogres, which are just absolutely awesome. This is Powerhouse. I'm going to crank these early game. I mean, I'm not going to have like an entire roster of them, but I'm going to try to get like 4 or 5 of them in a roster as fast as I can, because these are very, very good. They have really heavy armor-piercing damage. They cause fear. They are siege attackers, which means you can attack the first turn when you get to a walled city, so you don't have to spend multiple turns sitting there getting siege towers and other garbage like that. You can just get right in there and fight. And we're going to fight these sieges like real I wanted to say men, but I don't want to be gender biased. We're not going to exploit the sieges, okay? We're not going to sit in a corner and just hide out and, like, try to poke down some tower walls and, like, shoot a couple of archers at them and do all these other exploits other YouTubers might do. We're running down the front gate, we're ramming it open, and we're just going to just take it to them. Like, we're going to actually fight these sieges the way they're intended to be the way they're intended to be fought in this game. Okay, so once again, we're not going to play around. We're not going to look for exploits. We're going to play it tough. We're going to play it hard, and we're just going to win with just some good, clear, tactical, clean fights. So we're not fighting dirty. We're fighting clean, even though we are dirty rats. Okay. So anyways, he has excellent charge bonus. 46 charge is massive, and he weighs a lot. So they really have great impact damage as well. Pretty low overall melee attack and defense. So you want to make sure that you are hitting people in the back with these, charging in the back. Do not leave them on the front line just sitting there getting, like, stabbed with spears. They're not good at that. Okay, that's not why you pick them. You pick them to flank in the back because the Skaven don't have any cavalry, so these are like your cavalry early game. All right, that's another thing we'll talk about more when we talk about buildings and techs and stuff. Skaven is a very early game powerhouse faction, especially with the Menace from Below ability. So you have to really use that and, like, expand and become a powerhouse sort of economic faction early on, because you're going to get outclassed by later game units with other factions. So if you let them expand and just do their thing, and you don't have significantly more territory, you're going to get crushed. So it's kind of like if you ever played StarCraft, it's kind of like Zerg. You always want to be up in terms of bases, because your units are just going to be inferior on a one-to-one basis to something like a Terran or a Protoss. And just like in Warhammer 1, you know, most of the undead units are inferior one-on-one to something like, you know, elite Bretonnian units or elite Empire units, right? Because they're kind of a swarming horde type, even though they aren't technically a horde. They're like a swarming, like, mass unit type of faction. The Skaven are similar. You want to have superior numbers, you want to have superior economy, and just out macro people on the map. Okay, so those rock. Warp Fire Throwers. Now, these are awesome. These are probably my favorite new unit for the Skaven, and that's all I'm going to talk about, then we'll get into a fight. And the reason for this is they're everything that the Ironbreakers should have been. Who doesn't like flamethrower units from the Dwarves? And I really, really wanted to use the Ironbreakers. But the big problem with Ironbreakers in Warhammer 1 for the Dwarves is they're really high tech. I think they are tier 4. I don't think you could get them tier 3. I believe they're tier 4, which is real. That's a lot higher than tier 3. That's like 30 turns down the line from tier 3. The Warp Throwers are also actually tier 4, so I guess that's kind of a moot point. But the big one is the movement speed, is they have 38 movement speed, and there are several skills and techs and things that you can get to increase the movement speed of your infantry units, and they count as infantry. So you can actually reposition them and use them to fire down enemy flanks and enemy lines, to roast people. The biggest problem with the Iron Drakes is that they had a movement speed of like 28, maybe even 26. They moved so slowly that there is no way you could waddle around to the flanks and get stuff done. It's certainly not safely. You're going to get eaten up by things like archers and other stuff that's going to be focus firing you. So these are much faster, so you can actually reposition and get these to where they can really maximize that area of effect damage, which is awesome. They have good ammo. They have fire ammo and magical ammo. I believe that the flamethrowers, the Ironbreakers, only had flaming attacks, which doesn't cut through physical resistance. I don't believe, unless it says magical on it as well. So that's really good. And they cause contaminate. So not only are you firing in the back, which is going to cause a lot of leadership damage, and you're going to be killing a lot of stuff, which causes a lot of leadership damage, but this has this burnt debuff on it, which also causes additional leadership damage. So you're just going to be like shattering people with this. So this is my favorite unit so far for the Skaven. It's very, very powerful. It's everything that I really wish the Ironbreakers had been in Warhammer 1. So let's go ahead and put them to use. Let's get this. So we're just getting at it. It's going to tell us we're unfavored by a lot. Don't care. We're doing it. So you can actually pay food for Menace from Below. I would recommend not doing this most of the time. Food is a very valuable commodity. And 4 uses of Menace from Below is already pretty substantial. I really think, you know, I'm on the fence about whether this ability is overpowered or not. I feel like it should have been Skaven slaves and not clan rats. We'll talk about the difference between those after the fight. But yeah, basically what this is you get 1 use every 45 seconds. We get 4 total, and we can upgrade that to get more. And you can just point click anywhere on the map, and like just a unit of these clan rats will just run out of the ground and start fighting people. Now they do degrade over time, so they're ticking down. They're losing like 1% of their health every second or something like that. So they are kind of balanced in that way that they can't stay out forever. But they can tie up archers, they can tie up artillery, you can use them to flank infantry lines in the back. They're very, very useful tactically, which the Skaven probably need something like that because they don't have good missile infantry at all. Their missiles suck. They have no cavalry. The best you're going to get are the rat ogres for kind of fast-moving, high-impact. You know, you can get to like Doom Wheels later on in the game, but they really need something that can disrupt, that has some range. I think entire map length is a little much. I think it should be within like maybe 60 range of your lord in a fight. Something like that would probably be more appropriate. But overall, it's good. So I had considered not using them in the campaign because I thought they might be overpowered, but I think it's fair to use them because you really have to dominate early as Skaven because all the rest of your units are going to get outclassed. Okay, let's get in here. So you got to remember, like, with auto-resolve a lot of times, especially with Horde factions, they don't like, the auto-resolve can't really process, like, optimal tactics. So, especially with a Horde faction, they're just going to see a bunch of garbage here. And they're not going to be thinking, well, what if you surround people with that garbage? What if you have upgrades to that garbage? It doesn't take upgrades into account. So when you start getting techs and skills off of Queek and things that boost up particularly clan rats, then they are a lot stronger than auto-resolve suggests. Okay, so what we want to do here then is start the fight here. The Storm Vermin with halberds are pretty bad. We'll talk about them after the fight, but they're not great. They're okay. I mean, they're obviously better than clan rats, but like for the cost and like for the technology it takes to get them, they're not that great. Oh, they're over here this time. Okay, last time they were over here. I could kind of use this hill. I think what I'm going to do is just go with, like... Actually, you know what? I could hide these in here. And hide the warp throwers in here, maybe. Are they hidden? They are hidden. Now, Queek has pretty heavy armor. Like, I can take some hits with him. So I kind of want to just run him out at their lord. I could just stack them all up over here. Run at them, and then just have the Rat Ogre and these, like, tear them up from the back. Alright, so a good trick here, and one huge change they made from Warhammer 1, which is awkward right now, but I'm going to love it once I get used to it, is whenever you click to attack something, it automatically runs and charges. That annoyed me to no end, especially in multiplayer, like very high APM fights, very high action per minute, like micro-intensive fights, which a lot of multiplayer fights are, especially when you start getting into like the top 300 people who are actually playing legit and not like cheesing the system and cheating. Like anyways, that's a different story. But is that whenever you clicked on a unit, it would start walking there. Like, if you drag-clicked, it ran, but if you clicked on the unit itself, it would walk. So you had to press R or you had to double-click. And so now it's just single-click always. And if you press R, then they will walk. But it's always run, always charge, unless you say otherwise, which is perfect. That just frustrated me so much because I was like, why? Who the heck is going to walk most places? Almost everywhere you want to run. You want to charge. You want to get there. Okay, so they're still hidden. So I think I should be able to...
You may use the hills, valleys, and stranger.
Yeah, chill. See, they're walking, which is not great. There we go. Run. Sometimes I'm just accidentally going to press R because I'm just so used to it. Oh, yeah. What's up? Sneak attack. Bam! Oh, that's delicious. Oh, that is delicious. I mean, they should all run. Slaughter all of them. Okay, get them out of there. Get them out of there. They're in spears. I don't want them in spears. Get them out. Get them out. Alright, chill on that. Get over here, kill her. Oh, I need it. Speaking of which, there's the menace from below. Alright, back up, back up, back up. I don't want to lose them. The spears are turning on him. Get him out of there, get him out of there. Hit him from the back. Jeez, they all rallied over there. That's not good. Okay, get over here. Yeah, I should have used my menace from below a lot earlier. Yeah, they should be able to crush them. There we go. That should be it for them. They're donezo. Get them. That's fine. These guys can just... These guys have a lot of armor. They're good to go. So yeah, I should have used that menace. That was kind of my one little goof up here. Okay, hunted her down. Okay, chill. Don't fire, don't fire, don't fire, don't fire. You can friendly fire your own people with that stuff, so. That was okay. I definitely did mismanage my rat ogres. I let them sit in spears. So that's what I'm saying. Like, they are powerful, but you can't just let them sit in spears. It's fine. We'll replenish it. It's not a huge deal. Yeah, those warp fire throwers, though, huh? Man, those things are good. So yeah, I could have managed that a little bit better. So yeah, not bad considering we were pretty unfavored there. So yeah, you don't need a lot of that extra menace. Even if I had used it on time and like not used it for, you know, not waited to use it for like 30 seconds when I could have used it, I still would not have been able to cast an extra one beyond my initial one here. It has to be a super long fight for that to happen. Now, a good thing about large monstrous units is they heal up all of their health from the up to the model amount. So because there's only 16, each one of them has a lot of health, so they heal a lot more. So you saw the bar was at like 20% or something there, but then it heals all the way back up to like here, and it might even heal up a little bit more. Okay, so we got 10 food. A lot of gold. Wow, that's actually really good. I didn't get that last time. Magical attacks is pretty important. Okay, now it gives you a little voiceover whenever you choose what you want to do.
Scurry away, things. Quick, merciful.
See, he says, like, scurry away, and...
Slaves, poor batch. Scurry away, things. Quick,
But if you hold over something else...
swell the hordes of Moors. Yes, yes. Slaves work, then die. Kill slave things, yes, yes. Sacrifice to the 13.
Yeah. So that's kind of cool that they added in where it's like each faction says kind of what they're going to do with them. That's pretty cool. I like that. It's a nice touch. So in general, your options are sell and take casual replenishment, which is kind of standard from the original game. You can get 2 food. It's almost always 2 food and 4 leadership. Sometimes you might get more food, but usually it's just 2. Now, I'm trying to figure out exactly how much gold is worth giving up the 2 food. It depends on how much gold you have in your inventory as well, but I'm still of the mind that you need to just get gold most of the time, almost always gold, unless you're about to fight again. This is a really bad one unless you're in a super dire situation. I saw a lot of, like, streamers and kind of more amateur kind of players getting, they're not streamers, but you know what I'm saying, like people that are playing on lower difficulties and maybe aren't as tactically savvy or as strategically minded as I am, they'll get this a lot. It's not worth it most of the time. It's a very, very small amount. I mean, look at this. You're getting like a couple of extra storm vermin. You're getting like virtually nothing. That little yellow bar, if you look very carefully, pull out your microscope, that's how much extra you heal. That is not worth the gold most of the time. Leadership is very good, but I'm going for money. Money, always good. Money is always a good thing, especially when new army upkeeps are going to be plus 15%. You better believe you better have some stockpile of money. Okay, good. Alright, let's go ahead and clean them up. Let me go ahead and get his skill really quick. We're going to go Root Marcher, and I'll describe the skills here in a second, but I just want to go ahead and clean her up. I'm just going to auto that because it's a slaughter. We already just crushed him. You got to be careful, though, because it will put a lot of damage on your big, low entity units like Rat Ogres. And on your Lord. So, you know, if you only have like 2 Rat Ogres left, don't do it or it'll wipe out the battalion. What is this? Wow! That's like one of the best items in the game that you can get. 20%. Because that's physical and magic damage reduced. And magic's a lot better in this game. Okay, so I still think I want to. I'm not going to replenish anyways because I'm going to be in enemy territory, I believe. The way that I'm going to go this turn. Yeah, so I'm just taking the money. So losing that 5% replenishment rate, not a huge deal. Is it just... I think it's just for 1 turn, right? It's for 10 turns. Okay, so it does stack. So you lose 5% for 10 turns. So it doesn't go up to 10%, but it stays at 5%, which... Whatever. It's fine. It's worth it for getting a ton of gold. Okay, so let's talk about this here really quick. How much... Let me see how much time we spent. I know there's just so many tactical things to talk about. I want to see if I can get one more fight in. I want each episode to be about an hour, though. We may not be able to get another fight in, but we'll see. We'll see. If we don't do it, we'll do it to start next episode, because I don't want this to go much beyond an hour. We're at about 45 minutes. Okay, so let's go ahead and talk about skills here really quick. Okay, so just like in Total War Warhammer 1, I think I mentioned this with Skrulk, fighters are almost always going to be better than casters for lords. And the reason is you need to get the red tree. This is almost always the best. And once again, I saw a lot of people in the beta footage that was out there not getting the red tree. You need to get the red tree or the blue tree with most factions most of the time. Okay, and the reason is this impacts your entire army. So there are ways that you can specialize and customize like massive upgrades for your whole army. If you have to sit there and get magic with your lord, then you're not going to be getting the red tree fast enough, which means the rest of your army is going to suffer so that you have spells. It's okay. I mean, I did run a campaign in Empire with Balthazar Gelt, just deliberately to be a bit more challenging. And it's fine. We had a great campaign. But I think that, you know, after playing a lot of Warhammer, that you really want the fighters, especially early on. I mean, just having a unit... Now, he doesn't have a ton of health. He only has 4,200 health, but just having a unit has 110 armor and can just go up and just fight either enemy lords or large monsters or just sit there and soak some hits. It's just so important because the casters almost always have really low armor and really low just attack stats. So that's number one. But yeah, the big one is that you need these red things. Because look at some of this stuff. You get +8 melee attack and 6 leadership for clan rats. That is huge because you got to look at their base. Right? So if you look at them, clan rats, their base is only 24 on melee attacks. I talked about this in my first dwarf video that I ever did. If you give them +8 melee attack, that's making them hit 33% more of the time based on how melee attack and defense work. I'm going to make a whole other video on the channel that explains all of the basic stats and just basic strategy for Total War Warhammer for every faction. Like, not each individual faction, but just like how charge works, how armor works, how melee attack works, like basic tactics you should be doing, basic concepts you should understand on the campaign map. All of that, I'm going to pack it into one, like, you know, 30-minute to hour-long video, something like that. So just stay tuned for that. So I'm not going to go into that here. But basically, that means you're going to be hitting 33% more, which means you're doing 33% more damage on clan rats. So especially anything that gives plus melee defense, plus melee attack, anything like that to a unit that has a very low base. I mean, if this had 100 melee attack and you give it +8, that's only 8% more. So it's like, you know, whatever, that's okay. But on a 24 base, the 33% bonus, that's astronomically high. That's really, really high. And they're getting 6 more leadership, which is, I don't know, 13% more leadership or something. It's a lot. Just rough math off the top of my head, something like that. So, yeah, I think that that's a huge, huge buff. And you got to remember, Menace from Below is clan rats. So that's the name of the game here with skills and with the tech tree and with the buildings that we're going to do. Clan rats. 2 words, clan rats. Everything you can possibly do to upgrade those things, do it. Because they're very cost efficient, especially on Queek, when you have them in your army. And that's what Menace of Below spawns. So you're going to get extra free stacks of clan rats every fight. At least 4, if not more, if you're in a Skaven territory or if you buy more with food. So that's the most efficient thing you can possibly spend your gold on, is clan rats. Okay, so anything that upgrades clan rats, you need to get it. And they all have low base, once again, so the upgrades are very impactful. And they're pretty good units. I mean, for their cost, they're 81 gold. There's 160 in a stack, so there's a ton of them. 25 armors, okay. You know, leadership 45 is not great, but it's okay. Speed 42 is actually really good for infantry. And then 24 melee attack, 18 defense, 26 weapon strength is very respectable. Pretty good. So they're not as good as like infantry swordsmen, certainly not as good as like orcs. They're not as good as a lot of other infantry things. But you just have to remember they have 9,600 health, which is huge. And they have okay armor. They're fast. And there's a lot of upgrades for them. A lot of upgrades. So this is just one of many. Okay? So that's what you want to be upgrading early on, is you want to start working towards pack leader. So we'll go ahead and put that. But just the other stuff we're going to get, and I'm not going to go like super detailed, but just in general, things we want to get, just anything that buffs up, once again, clan rats or casualty replenishment is huge. That lets you get really elite armies and run them around without having to go back to your main town if a unit gets wiped out. Because, you know, sometimes if you don't have good replenishment and, let's say my rat ogres go down to like 3 models, I would have to sit in a town and wait like 5 turns for them to replenish all the way up. If you have really good replenishment, you can do that in just a couple of turns. So that's why it's really important to have high replenishment. So life is very cheap is one of the best like skills in the game you can get. I mean, this is just so insanely good. And this is what makes not only Queek really good, but also the Warlords extremely good over the Graciers. Is not only can the Warlords just spend all their points in red and blue, but they also get life is very cheap. for 20% casualty replenishment rate on everything in your army. That right there, if it just said that, if it didn't say any of the other 3 things, I would get it. I would rush it so quickly because that's so powerful to have 20%. But not only that, you get -10 for clan rats. Hold on, all forces. Wait, is that for real? I thought it was just for the army. I'm pretty sure the other lords also get this. Is that for real? I'm going to have to look with the other lords. So if I have multiple lords, like if I have 3 different lords that get this, it'll be 30% on all clan rats across the board. Now, obviously, all the rest of them say Lord's Army. So casualty replenishment, armor, unit experience are all Lord's Army. That says all forces, though. That's easily the best skill I can think of then if it's every force. Because then if you get 5 armies, you just fill them all with clan rats, and you just get this skill, then they're all going to get 50% upkeep on all of it. If you have all these upgrades on the clan rats. So yeah, that's really, really good. And then you get +10 armor. Once again, they have a low base armor. They only have 25, so that's giving them like 40% extra armor on Skaven slaves and clan rats. And then you get +4 chevrons on clan rats, which is huge. That's like giving them another, I don't know exactly what the chevron rate is for clan rats, but I think it's at least +1 melee defense and +1 melee attack additional, if not 8 and 8. Some units get +2, some units get +1 per rank. But yeah, that's insanely powerful. So we want to get that as soon as we can. So we want to get extremely distrustful. +8 leadership's awesome. -1 loyalty, don't care. It's fine. Doesn't matter. The loyalty system, basically, if you go to 0 loyalty, then a lord will turn on you and take their army and rebel and start fighting you. But there are plenty of techs and other things you can do to balance that out. And as long as you're fighting and winning fights, they're going to be happy. It's not a problem. So you have to get this for +8 leadership, which is really good. I got Inspiring Presence first because +5 leadership's really good, but maybe I should have gone Distrustful. Oh, you have to be rank 6. Okay, so I can't even do it yet. But yeah, we want to go Pack Leader, ASAP, and then get Extremely Distrustful. Life is cheap, and the other stuff's good too. I mean, this is +4 for Storm Vermin, and you can buy them in 1 turn. I believe 1 turn. I think they're 2 turns to get. So that's pretty good. +2 Public Order. You definitely want that. Public Order's tough, as we talked about before. It's pretty good. Extra ambush chance is good. As you saw, I ambushed the last fight, so I get to put the first... I get to do the first attack on them, which is good. So you have a chance to ambush. It tells you if you hover over the terrain what that chance is. So it's 40% if you're open field, and I believe it's like 90% in a jungle. 80% in a jungle. Now, some units are going to have ambush defense, so it's going to be a lot less likely you're going to be able to ambush them. But obviously, ambush is great for a swarm faction because you're going to get to set up and just completely surround them. Kind of like I did, where I baited them into facing all my clan rats, and then I hit them from behind with a warp fire thrower out of the woods. It's like instantly shattered like 4 battalions of archers. So you can move around in that. You also have the Underway, which is very similar to orcs, beastmen, elves, dwarves. You can encamp, which enables replenishment and gives you the global recruitment, which is alright. You can raid, which gives you 3 food, which is awesome, gives you money, and then affects, you know, it does all kinds of negative stuff for the province. If you do it in your own province, it gives -30 public order, so you don't want to do it unless you're specifically trying to farm rebellions. You can pause and go into ambush stance if you want to try to get them to walk into you. Or you can go march stance. Now, if you go into march stance, you can't ever retreat. And if you go into the Underway, of course, if they kill you there, you're dead. So it's a lot harsher if you use march stance. The AI also can't retreat in march stance. So that's important. Just to kind of put a bow on the skills here. So we're going to get most of this stuff. This is super powerful. And then we definitely want Pack Leader early, and then we're going to get to Respected and Feared. Extra damage and melee attack for Storm Vermin, Death Runners, and Plague Monks. All of those are pretty good units. Let me double check those Plague Monks. Like I said, it was Skrulk was charging 150 for it. Yeah, it's 187 without Skrulk, and it says he gets 50% off Plague Monks. And really, he's only getting 37 gold off, which is like 20% off. So it's not 50% off, it's 20% off. So that's a total lie. That's, yeah, so Scroll is bugged, or they're just scamming people with that. I don't know. So, anyways, yeah, clan rats, respected and feared. You have to get 6 things, and you can get rally, and then this is where it gets really nice. Whip smart if you have rank 7 at least for clan rats. So, this right here is going to rank up clan rats. That's going to get us to rank 4 when we recruit. There's some technologies that can get us to 7 really quickly. Some stuff like Draft Master can get you to 7. Renowned and feared. So there are several things that can get you to level 7 very quickly. So once you're level 7, they get an additional 5 melee attack, 5 leadership, and 10% missile resistance. So that's great. Just for 1 point, awesome. And you can do that with a lot of other things too. So you can do it with Gutter Runners, Night Runners, Death Runners, extra missile damage for Warp Fire Throwers, which is pretty good. Leadership, Magic Resist, and then this one's really good. 15% physical resist for... oh, it's also Plague Monks. I just caught that. I thought it was just Rat Ogres and Hell Pit. It's also Plague Monks. That's really good. So that'll put them up to 45% on Plague Monk, physical resistance. And then extra armor, leadership. And then this, once you get 1 point in this, you might as well just go ahead and get this. It's not great, but it's okay. It's a 27 melee attack you can use every minute and a half, and it lasts for 15 seconds. So it's all right. Now, this is cool. I've seen some other streamers going for this. So you can target someone out and just go for their head and try to kill them. So it's 47 seconds, a huge debuff where you're going to win straight up if you fight him. But it takes so many points to get to that. And he is a good fighter. So some of this stuff is like, okay, you know, extra melee attack and extra, you know, percent damage. But trust me, this right here is really, really strong. You definitely want these things. They don't take up a lot of points. Extremely cost efficient. This is really good. And then down here you get extra loot. Draft Master. Lightning Strike is good. It's not as important on Skaven because you get to ambush almost every fight. Quartermaster is amazing. Minus 15% upkeep here. And then this gives you another 8%. So you can get up to 23% upkeep. So in theory, I guess if you have 5 lords that all have that clan rat thing, and that knocks it down 50%, and then you get this for 23%, you'd have like 73% off of clan rats. This also gives you campaign movement range again. This is really, really good. Enemy hero success chance minus 30%, and then over here, this is like minus something, isn't it? Minus 20. So yeah, they're not gonna be doing a lot of stuff to you. So yeah, that's super powerful. Okay, let's go ahead and move out over here. So I'm gonna go for this town like immediately. Yeah, I'm already in enemy territory. I could go like right here. I don't know if I can. I don't think I can cross that though. Yeah, I can. The question is, can I hit that in 1 turn walking if I stand here? So if I stand here, I can replenish for a turn. Then the question is, can I run through this jungle? Running through jungle takes a lot of movement speed. As you can see, I can't run as far in the jungle as I could if I was running on either side. I do have Root Marcher. So the question is, can I run from here, get replenishment, and then run into here? I don't think they have anything hardly over here. A little bit. I can't build new units no matter what. My units are more dinged up than when I had done this originally, so it wasn't my finest fight ever. I can do a little bit more menace if I have to. I think we can pull it off. I'm just going to run for it just to make sure we get it next turn. So we'll do that last fight, and I think that'll be it for the episode. I can't build anything yet, so we'll talk about buildings next episode, so I'm just going to go ahead and start this. I don't want to spend too much time. You have to spend so much talking about all this stuff because there's so much going on. But we'll do that at the start of next episode with the buildings. But I'll see if I can get this last fight in here and see if we can get 2 fights in an episode. Okay, we can't do technologies yet. You have to have buildings. I'll explain it next episode. In terms of diplomacy...
Relations with foreign powers may be managed through diplomacy, my lord.
Okay, I'm going to try to... I'm going to try to see if I can confederate with these guys eventually. How much money do I have? I have a decent amount. I have like 6,000. Let me see if I can go ahead and pay them for that. I can maybe do that next turn, but I want to get that. The faster you get it, the faster your reputation goes up with them. So it takes time. It'll give you, I think, non-aggression's like 20 extra diplomatic points, maybe 30. But it ticks up over time, so you don't get that 30 instantly. So you want to get this going like as soon as you possibly can. So let's see if I can sweeten the pot a little bit here. Okay, so 300 gold's worth it to me to go ahead and get that started, so that I can confederate with them faster, because they have a warpstone thing, and I would like to try to confederate before the lizardmen take this from them. I think they have it. Or is it the lizardmen that have that? Let me see. Either way, I want their stuff. Okay, the lizardmen have it. But either way, I want these two. And there's going to be enough stuff I'll already have to fight over here, so that's just one less person I'll have to deal with. And if they have any lords, I get their lords, I get their buildings intact. So it's worth your money if you can do a good confederation early. I'm just going to kill these guys because they only have one town. But the other place has 2. So it's probably worth it to confederate with them. Okay. One final thing here. We've got a non-confederation. You can also do a gift to them. Now, I don't abuse this. I've heard in Warhammer 1, someone told me in the comments that you can potentially just spam these gifts every single turn and keep getting more and more and more small gifts. I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to do one gift at a time. I'm not sure if that's true. I never tested it. But I'm just going to do one gift at a time. And so what this does is, I believe the first one gives you 10, 20, 30 extra relations with somebody. So it's 15 for a non-aggression. So this would give me 10 more. And it's only 440. The more the faction likes you, the less you have to pay for that gift. If they hate you, it might cost like 2,000 or something gold for a small gift if they're about to go to war with you. Okay, so we're gonna hook it up. So now we've got 25 moving up, and that's gonna allow them, or that's going to encourage them to want to get a trade agreement with us whenever I get this coastal town here next turn, hopefully. Trade agreement will not only give us money, but it will give us better diplomacy with them too, so we can eventually confederate. And ports are extremely good. We'll do the town stuff next next feature, but ports are very, very, very good on Skaven because they have good multipliers for money, but they don't have good base income. So if you have buildings with good base, like gold mines, ports, things like that, then that's actually pretty good. Gold mines are insane on them, I think. Okay. I think that's it. So we did diplomacy, can't do techs. Talk about rights when that's more relevant, just to save money. Skaven corruption doesn't matter. Everybody's moved. Don't want to hire an extra lord. Okay, let's go ahead next turn. God dang it, we're going to be over time. Let me see how far over we are. Because I really want to do a second fight here, because I've talked so much. I can't always promise I'll do multiple fights, but I try to do at least one per episode if I can. Okay, good. The advisor's not coming on this much this time. I think he was just doing that a lot because it was my first campaign on Total Warhammer 2. Okay, so my units are kind of dinged up. How are we looking on time? We're over. I think I'm going to have to start the next episode with the fight. So I'll go ahead and preview it here for you. Just kind of what we're going to be looking at. It's going to be a decently tough fight, but remember we do have Menace from Below. No, they don't have a Lord either, and they only have 5 units, so we'll beat them. Whatever, I'm going to go a little over. I'm going to do this fight. I just want to go ahead and get it done, get it completed, then I can show off like how you can use your food tactically to increase stuff. And we'll just have a really long like first episode, and then... Or do I want to do this next episode? No, I'm gonna have some self-control. We'll do it next episode. We'll start the fight. I really need to try to keep it to an hour. I know I always said that in Warhammer 1, for those of you that have been following me for a while, and sometimes my episodes would go to like, hour 15, hour 30. Because I just get into it and I just love it. I mean, the game's just so awesome. But I'm going to try to be strict. I'm going to keep it to about an hour. So we'll start off. I'm not trying to cliffhanger you. I'm just trying to keep it to an hour. So we'll start off with this fight next episode. They're going to send, just minor spoiler, they will eventually send another army up here. So we'll definitely get 2, maybe 3 fights next episode if I make it down there and siege them on time. And the episodes will go a lot faster than this. Just I had to cover so much because I want everybody to understand what's going on just from a viewership perspective so they can appreciate the campaign more and appreciate my decisions more. Because I have a lot of League players that are subbed to the channel. You know, I think probably at least 12,000 or so of my subs on the channel are League players of my 13,000. And those are potential people that could enjoy and want to come play Warhammer. So I need to explain it to them if they want to watch this content so they enjoy it. And just for people that are just new to the game in general that just stumble across my channel, I want to make sure that everyone understands and appreciates all the strategic implications as well. But yeah, once we talk about, you know, I don't have to talk about the ritual system that much anymore. I don't have to talk about Skaven Blight or any of that other stuff. So it won't take as much time to get through that in future episodes. But I just need to lay the groundwork there. So the first couple of episodes will be more exposition than others. Okay, that's going to be it. Thank you very much. Have a good day, and I hope to see you next time. Skaven's awesome. Go get the game, play him. It's a good time.